So one of the most important things I think that anyone could build while they're getting into personal development is building what I would call a core habit. So a core habit is something that you're practically going to do every single day. Like, this is something that you're going to dedicate yourself to trying to do for basically every day for the rest of your life. So some examples of a core habit could be something like a meditation practice. This could be walking, running. You could do self-inquiry, contemplation. There's pretty much a huge variety of things you could choose. I mean, down to things like healthy eating and all sorts of things like that. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick this one thing that you are going to make sure that you do every single day. So once you've picked that, you're going to start acting on it. And depending on what it is exactly, maybe you choose walking, you're not an active person. You're probably going to want to start doing it maybe 10, 15 minutes a day, right? That'll be your start. And maybe eventually you're going to work your way up to jogging, running, and all that good stuff afterwards. So while you're building up this habit, it's going to be a lot easier for you to start eventually working on other things. But for the most part, for the first few months, you're just going to need to solidify just this habit. And once you have this habit down, it's going to basically transform your life. You're going to have what I would call a domino effect. And so what'll easily start to happen is, if you have this really good habit going, it's going to be super easy for you to, let's say, maybe quit an addiction that's surrounding it. So let's say you were jogging, for example, right? And you're building up that, but you're also a cigarette smoker. It's going to be extremely easy for you to actually quit those cigarettes than it would have been before, right? Especially if you have this habit locked down. Eventually you're going to start to feel so much need for the running more than the smoking, essentially. And it might be a bit hard to get yourself up to running if you are a heavy cigarette smoker, for example. But not only that, it's going to also be really easy for you to build new habits around it. So whatever you decide to do, you could decide to do it first thing in the morning. And this could allow you to actually get up a bit earlier. And I would highly recommend that this be one of the first things that you do, actually, is this core habit. Probably the first thing in the morning would be ideal, but depends on what it is. It might vary on the time or day. You could go to the gym 4 or 5 in the morning you want. You could meditate. You could do anything like that. I've actually tried to do some meditation at 6 a.m. It does work. It is a little bit difficult depending on how you do it, and especially where you're at with it. So that's one way that you can definitely go about it, and it's going to make it really easy for you to build on these other things. So if you want to build in a good routine every day, you want to base it right around this core habit and finding those other habits around it. So like here with myself, right? I have a really good walking and running habit. The only issue with like running, for example, is you could get injured, which I did pull a muscle recently, and that has made it a bit harder to do it every day, because then you'd have to rest it. So if you did choose something like meditation, that would be advantage with that, because I mean, you could have broken limbs, whatever, you could still do it. But in my case, I would say try not to miss more than one day would be the best advice that I could give you. One day in a row, that is. And ideally get this habit down to where you're doing it every single day. But life could get in the way. You could miss a day or so. But try to make sure it's only one day when you do it. And that's going to help you really keep this habit just really strong. And especially on days where you don't feel like doing it, especially when you're building a new habit, you're going to run into a lot of days that are probably a bit more rough. Maybe you are doing the running, maybe it's raining, maybe it's too hot out, whatever the case might be. Maybe you're too tired, you have work. It's going to be really hard, so it's going to be really essential that you stick to this habit and stick it through every single day, especially during that prime building of getting this habit integrated into your life. It's kind of just like if you're used to brushing your teeth twice a day, right? Eventually you're not even really going to question you brushing your teeth twice a day, right? Or flossing or anything like that, right? It's just going to be something that's automatically built into your mind that you're just going to do. So if I don't go for a run, it actually does not feel that good, right? I don't feel that great that day. Usually, for the most part, unless I really need some recovery. Maybe I'm really burnt out from, doing too much work or too much running or something like that, for example, I could end up needing a break from it. But for the most part, if I were missing it, like when I hurt my muscle, it was actually kind of hard for me to stop doing it, which would have been the exact opposite when I first started building the habit. It would have been really easy for me to just stop doing it, which is what you notice probably with a lot of people around you, and probably even in yourself. It's really hard to build up these other habits. And so that's why I say that it's so important to build up this core habit and make this the main focus. So if everything else kind of has to slide for a little bit, I would say it would be worth it to just let it slide and really focus in on this one thing. I think this is probably one of the most powerful foundational things in personal development that I've found. So anyway, if you guys could leave down in the comments what your core habit is or what it's going to be. If you have any questions about maybe a habit you're trying to build or anything like that, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Thank you and have a great day.